What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. Monday Night Football did not end the way that we thought it would with just a few minutes left in the game. Andrew Dalton played an incredible game of football. Got let down a little bit by his receivers, by his pass catchers.
Play calling, defense.
Defense came to play for the Saints, but the Buccaneers completely flipped everything on its head with a 17-16 victory. This may surprise you. Tom Brady cut somebody's guts out in primetime once again. The Bucs moved to 6-6. The Saints 4-9. Joining me to break it down, Ryan Wilson and John Breech. Breech is Wilson, just as you might expect if you listen to this podcast frequently. Wilson, a little Wilson myth, because his was in a very good spot, very, very good spot to have your Buccaneers prediction looking correct. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just like you had the Bucs are buried.
Take your moment. You've earned it. Go ahead.
No. We'll get to it in a minute. And then Breech, of course, I can't tell if you're like drunk or just discombobulated, or like Wilson made it like it's dark in your room. I don't think you turned on your lights. It looks dark in there. Maybe that's just the shadow of death creeping over you as you realize that Andrew Dalton can't win in primetime against Tom Brady. How we doing, fellas?
Breech, is there anyone that enjoys other people's misery more than Will Brinson?
Will Brinson is the guy who,
the pettiest man alive.
You know how some people are visited by the ghost of Christmas past? Brinson is the ghost of other people's misery. He will visit you and rub your misery in your face. He will send me a cut picture with Andy Dalton's head cut out of it and saying, here, put this on your Twitter header. And he will send you a Tom Brady picture saying he'll never be washed up. You are wrong, Ryan Wilson. But what a freaking game. That's what I will say.
Do you gonna guess if you've looked, you know the answer, but if you haven't looked, what is Andy Dalton's now career record in primetime games?
I feel like last time we talked, it's like 6-20.
It is exactly 6.
Is that it?
And 20.
I mean, I knew last time we talked about it was just like 3 or 4 weeks ago, so it was on the top of my head.
10:25 p.m. I'm just going to read some Slack messages.
Yeah, go ahead, lean into it. And by the way, there's a thing called karma, so I look forward to the payback.
But my entire life is an L for NC State.
Go ahead, enjoy it.
Yeah,
enjoy
sure. it. John Breech, entire podcast tonight needs to be an ode to Andy Dalton. I said Dalton slinging at Wilson, or an ode to Brinson apologizing me about Tom Brady. Follows up. Billy sends a rundown. We're laughing. Wilson says 10:37 p.m. Brinson admits Wilson was right that Brady is washed. Tampa Bay is garbage. I said,
wait, hold on. Let me cut in because Brinson not pinning anything bad on him. At 10:34, Brinson rejiggles the rundown so that Dalton beating Brady in prime time is the first topic.
It was like the Bucs were getting their ass kicked. Andy Dalton played awesome in this game. He was led down by pretty much every receiver that he had. Chris Olave had a horrible drop in the first drop of the year, by the way, on 95 targets. Olave's been awesome. I'm not dogging him.
But that is a fair call up. That cost him 3 points at the least.
Absolutely. Taysom Hill had a late drop that
in between that Jarvis Landry dropped a tough pass that would have been a touchdown.
Yes.
So
and Mark Ingram ran out of bounds a yard short of the sticks that would have ended the game effectively.
Now he got hurt, but my thing, and I said this in Slack too, get hurt 3 feet further down the field. And then you can roll out of bounds and take a knee or whatever, because they had to punt on that drive. I mean,
all those players are tough, good football players. We're not questioning there's like Olave's first drop. Landry, I mean,
why are you apologizing? Yeah, we've been talking about this all year.
We're not like ripping Mark Ingram but like you got to fall forward and get that first down.
Yeah. There's no qualification needed. I mean, Chris Olave would tell you he shouldn't have dropped that ball. Jarvis Landry probably should have said he would have had the one-handed catch. It was a tough catch, but you'd like to see him make it.
You got a second hand on it, too.
Yeah, that knocked it out of the first hand. Taysom Hill, you guys were giving me a hard time about, well, you shouldn't have a quarterback out there. That dude's job is catching passes. He's not a quarterback, and it hit him in both hands. I guarantee you he would say after the game he should have caught that ball. So whether he should have been out there or not, at some point, Andy Dalton's like, well, I got to throw it to somebody, and all the other guys keep dropping the balls or running out of bounds. I'll try Taysom Hill, and the ball hit him in the hands. And Breech, of these 26 games, and I'm sure if you watched every single minute of it, I would imagine this is the best game that Andy Dalton has not only played at night, but during the day.
Yeah.
I mean, he was lights out, and obviously we will talk about the Buccaneers.
No turnovers.
Having watched Andy Dalton play more primetime games than I care to admit, or probably anyone more than anyone alive besides maybe Andy Dalton's mom and Andy Dalton's dad and Andy Dalton's wife,
or anybody who's worked in football since 2012. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, not everyone wants to sit through an Andy Dalton primetime game, Brinson.
I do.
People usually mail it in starting about halftime when his team's trailing by 2 touchdowns, and you start surfing and start watching a baking competition on Food Network. That's what usually happens when people are watching Andy Dalton primetime games. But no, I mean, we're talking about, you guys mentioned drop passes. He only threw 8 incompletions. Probably 4 of them were drops. If he gets those, he probably ends 24 to 28 for 300 yards. If Taysom Hill doesn't have that ball knocked out, we're talking about Andy Dalton, the hero. Olave's drop was unexpected. It was really weird. It seemed like the Saints were in control this whole entire time. And for them to lose and it not be Andy Dalton's fault, and for the defense to just kind of melt down at the end after just holding the Buccaneers in check. They absolutely shut down. They suffocated the Buccaneers offense for 55 minutes and then just melt down for 5 minutes and you lose.
Yeah, it didn't help that on the Saints' last offensive drive that Andy Dalton took a 10-yard sack. Yeah. And then they passed the ball again. That was the Taysom Hill drop that we just talked about. So, there are little things that add up. I thought both coaches were suboptimal, as the kids say, and they didn't help out their respective teams. I think Tom Brady is probably strangling or trying to strangle Todd Bowles right now, and Byron Leftwich is probably holding the back.
Actually, Brady gave Todd Bowles a lot the credit in the post-game interview with Lisa Salters. Apparently, he said,
let's be honest. We saw him.
I think we saw the last punt where it was 4th and 10. The 4th and 7 that was in sort of inexcusable punt.
Yeah, I mean, I would take very little what Tom Brady says publicly.
Brady's not throwing his coach under the bus.
Right.
We all saw his facial expressions during the game, and Brady was trying to be the coach on the field, like, yo, man, we're going for this, and he got vetoed.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of that was Todd Bowles saying, listen, 45-year-old man who's not much younger than me, I'm still the boss, so bring your ass on over here and don't pout. And he didn't pout, and he went back out there, and he won it. But, I mean, it's a huge win for the Buccaneers. But to Breech's point, if Taysom Hill catches that ball, we're all talking about how the Buccaneers are washed and Tom Brady is washed. And I'm not coming off that. Like, Tom Brady is obviously fantastic, greatest player of all time, and he would start on, 30 other teams right now. I get all that. But this team is not very good. They have one offensive lineman left, Donovan Smith, and his job is to hold people. Like, I think he has 31 holds since coming into the league is what they said during the telecast. He had one critical one on that last drive, and Tom Brady was able to overcome it. And they're not going anywhere.
Actually, let me rephrase. I'm not rephrasing it. I'm going to give the full quote from Tom Brady because not hearing him say it, I would be curious to see the video. But great job. This is on the 4th and 10 with over 7 minutes left. Brady to Lisa Salters. Great job by Coach Bowles. I give him all the credit. That's what he wanted and how it turned out. So I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a little less than
less enthusiastic than I recall hearing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not suggesting the Bucs are good because I don't think the Bucs are good. They're 6-6. They're a 500 team, but they have a pretty substantial lead in the division. They're minus 400 coming in.
But you're also of the opinion that they can win a playoff game.
Well, I think that what we saw in the final 2 drives from Tom Brady with those weapons and there are not many good defenses in football, man. There are teams that are going to have to go to Tampa Bay and play against the greatest quarterback of all time in the playoffs. That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP.
That was Brinson at the end of that game when he was running up the rundown to dunk on me and Breech.
I mean, I'm just saying that when you look at the NFC playoffs and you have the Eagles, who are a very good team, Cowboys look like a very good team. They were up 21-19 on the Colts going to the 4th quarter. Never mind. The Vikings look like a very good team. The 49ers just lost Jimmy Garoppolo for the season. So they may be either Brock Purdy or Baker Mayfield. And the other teams in the wild card are going to be some combination of Washington, New York, Seattle, and Detroit, Green Bay. Like, the NFC is wide open enough, and we've seen this before, where questionable teams in the playoffs can get white hot. I'm not suggesting that it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
And I don't disagree with Brinson.
Okay.
Look at those touchdown passes. 2 of them this year. He had the one with 9 seconds left against the Rams, 3 seconds left against the Saints. Latest go-ahead touchdown pass in Tom Brady's career. I really felt like it's funny that Brady was out there kind of, some people throw their coach under the bus. Brady put Todd Bowles on top of the bus, then got in the bus and drove it and said, come on, coach, we're going to go ahead and win this game, because I thought both these coaches kind of melted down in the second half, and it was who could make the first coach that made a smart decision was going to be a coach that won this game, and then neither of them did. It just happened that one of these coaches had Tom Brady and the other one didn't, and that's really felt like what it came down to. I mean, we talked about the Ingram not going out of bounds, but even though he didn't, it was still 3rd and 1 for the Saints at Tampa Bay's 44-yard line with I think 5 minutes and 40 seconds left. So you're looking at a situation where if you run the ball there and you don't get it, 40 seconds burn off the clock. Well, guess what? If that 40 seconds is gone, Tampa Bay is in a completely different situation.
What'd they do, Breech?
Well, they called a pass, and it was incomplete, and the clock stopped. And then on 4th and 1, the Saints decided to punt from Tampa Bay's 44.
It was one terrible play call after the next. That sack that I mentioned on the last drive that Andy Dalton took the 10-yard sack. They took all the receivers off the field, and I said, if they're going to throw the ball, they better have a plan. And their plan was to send 3 people out in a route. None of them got open. And Andy Dalton didn't want to throw the ball away and stop the clock, so he took the sack, which you understand on some level. But it's just mistakes compounding other mistakes that lead to time not going off the clock. And there were about 15 different things that happened in this game. I mean, I actually feel bad. This is the worst I felt for Andy Dalton. That includes the game where he broke his hand late in the season when he was on pace to be the MVP. Breach.
Actually, the worst I've ever felt for Andy Dalton is when you said there's a path to 9 wins. No, I mean, I do agree with you, though, that, and this is sort of what you've seen it a lot. We saw it a lot more for 20 years against New England than you have against Tampa Bay, but it's, a lot of it is you make these mistakes that, they're just like you make the mistakes, right? Unforced errors, as they call them in tennis. These unforced errors lead to giving Tom Brady extra opportunities to rip your heart out. And he's done it so many times that he's comfortable doing it. And I know that he wasn't great in this game. He checked down a lot, very bad for 3 quarters and change. Or not very bad, just under pressure, and the play calling wasn't good. And like they ran the ball so well on that first drive, and
he was bad. If you were playing for the Patriots and wearing Mac Jones's number, people would be like, "Oh, this guy's washed."
I mean, if those last 2 drives don't happen, I mean, again, we had the rundown built out. We're coming on, and you're gleefully dunking all over my misery.
That wasn't gleefully. I was just saying you were all up in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers jock. And this isn't even about Tom Brady. It's more about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a team. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Tom Brady is great. Yeah. I get that. He's 45, and he plays like a 45-year-old. And those last 2 drives, as you point out, is exactly what's going to happen when you make a bunch of stupid mistakes as the Saints and you keep giving the ball back to Tom Brady. Eventually, he's going to burn you, and he did, even though Donovan Smith tried his best to get that holding call and move them back. The Buccaneers, I just can't get on board with. And that's fine. We'll find out together. But I just, even though Tom Brady can overcome a lot, I just don't know, man. That's a huge ask.
I mean, my only thing, and I'm not trying to say the Bucs are going to win the Super Bowl. I know.
You're saying they can win a playoff game. I don't know if they can even do that.
Oh, I think, well, the issue with the playoff game is that they're going to have to,
play it.
What's that?
They're going to have to play
it.
No,
they're just going to have to play the Dallas Cowboys, who have a sick pass rush and a good offense. And so can they keep up with Dallas? Can they keep Brady from getting sacked 10 times?
No,
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm not going to write Tom Brady off in a playoff game. It looks they don't have odds up quite yet, but on Caesars for what the division is. I'm assuming the Bucs will now be like minus 600 or something like that, because they were minus 400 going in. Saints were plus 3-1. Bucs are now 87% at 538 to win the division. 88% to make the playoffs. Obviously, they're getting in via the division because their record is 6-6. I just think there is enough talent, like high-end talent, whether on both sides of the ball. You look at the linebackers, and I'm not saying they've been playing well, but there is just enough high-end talent where if they get in, who the hell knows? That's my whole point.
Yeah, and really, with the division, a loss by the Buccaneers, if the Saints win this, that throws a wrench in this whole thing. The NFC South is upside down if the Buccaneers lose this game, because you're talking about every team being within one game, last place being within one game of first place with only 5 weeks left in the season. But now that's out the window, and you have the Buccaneers comfortably in first place at 6-6. And the thing is, if they just go 2-3, which might be the best case scenario when you look at their schedule and who they have left. I mean, it's not just like they obviously have the 49ers next week, then they play the Bengals after that. So they have a tough schedule down the stretch. And if they go 2-3, that puts them at 8-9. 8-9. And
winning that division by 2 games.
And that pretty much makes them a lock, because the Falcons would have to go 3-1 just to get to 8-9. But the Falcons are 1-3 in the division, so they're not going to win that tiebreaker. So it's not going to matter. So 8-9 is going to pretty much make the Buccaneers a lock for the playoffs.
I think now, I think no one thought they weren't a lock, even if they lost this game. I don't think. I didn't.
If they lost this game at home in primetime against Andy Dalton.
But here's the thing. They are only 2 plays better than you're now making them out to be, or than you thought that what they were going to be. That's
right. It's the rest of the division. It's not the.
No, my point is that you're still overvaluing them because the 2 plays at the end of the game. They're still a bad football team. So I think that has to be whatever the math is. No, I understand that, but your perception has changed because they have a W next to their name instead of an L. That's what I'm saying. Like, they're not any better than the crappy team that we saw, right?
No. I'm not suggesting that the Buccaneers are good. I
know you're not. Just, I don't want to get off. We're on that. Let me finish this part though. But Breech said 2-3 is something gets them to 8 wins. I think now, listen, you got to put all your Brinson power into winning these football games. Get the 3rd seed, and then you play the Giants or someone, and then maybe you can talk about winning the football game. Is there any way they can win 3 games, Breech?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They after the 49ers and Bengals, which we'll say they lose both, they close with the Cardinals, Panthers, and Falcons, and they could certainly win all 3 of those.
Okay. So,
and if they split with the 49ers and Bengals, if they somehow go 1-1 there, then 3 games.
Take the L to the Bengals, just beat the Niners, because that's who you're probably chasing for the 3 seed.
Well, there's Brock Purdy, and then you have to worry about Seattle, and maybe Seattle and San Francisco beat each other up, and you can sneak into the 3rd seed and then not have to play the Cowboys. Maybe that's the best case scenario.
You could end up hosting the Giants or Washington or Detroit or Seattle.
With that lose to Geno. Now that would be fun.
Yeah, look, again, not saying they're a good team, but they get Brock Purdy. Those final 3 games are very, very, very winnable.
Golly, you'd hope so.
4-1 out of the question there.
Well, hold on.
it's not likely.
4-1's asking a bit much.
I would think that. They'll be favored in their final 3 games.
Yeah, geez, I would hope so. My goodness. Those teams, you could put an all-star team together with those teams and play the Buccaneers 3 times, and those teams will lose every single time.
But your point about the 3rd seed is a very good one, though, because
thank you.
Now
I gotta hop on board this stupid Buccaneers bus headed straight for the cliff. So let's do it up. This is Breech. This is like we were all driving back from the 49ers. The San Francisco Super Bowl media night. Get on the bus, put your seatbelts on.
And hope we don't crash into
give Todd Bowles some chewing gum. Let's go.
So the Eagles are only, again, this is 538.com. The Eagles are only 79% to win the division, which is, that's still high, of course, but it's not it's not 99%, which is what some other teams have to win the division, like the Titans. The Cowboys are clearly the other 21%, making up the other 21% there to win the division. That is just to that point. If the loss of the quarterback issue. Oh, actually, here's a good question. Sully and I talked about this. I'll tell you what, I've got a great question about.
I hope you're going to take a break first.
At the waiver wire, and I'll ask it to you after the break next.
Ooh.
Should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers claim Baker Mayfield simply for the purpose of blocking the 49ers from getting him.
Counter question, open to either you or Breech. Should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not claim Baker Mayfield and hope the 49ers claim him and play him?
Well, I do think that there's a very good chance that a team, it could be Seattle, could be Tampa Bay.
This isn't like the situation when who got claimed? Who was that player that got claimed? Was that Deion Sanders that got claimed back in the day? There was some player that got claimed to keep another team from claiming him in this sort of situation. I can't remember who it was exactly. But Baker, what is he bringing to the table? Like, why wouldn't you want him on your opponent's team?
Well, it's if you claim Baker and you just pay him $1.5 million to sit there and shut up,
He ain't gonna do that.
Well, if something happens, I mean, the 49ers have already lost 2 quarterbacks for the season. If something happens to Brock Purdy, or he's just not very good because he's a rookie, that's not out of the question.
No, I get that. I'm just trying to get to the why you want Baker.
Just don't give them another body to play at quarterback, another guy with starts to play at quarterback. I would do it.
Well,
you play to win the game.
Claim to win the game.
They signed Josh Johnson, who has played for the 49ers previously. So I think he would be the number 2 no matter what, at least in the short term.
I mean, this sounds like a new chapter in Brinson's game theory book.
Well, so Wilson has said no.
I don't think it's crazy.
Would you? I mean, I think the Seahawks will claim him anyway if the Niners. I mean,
then you're wasting a roster spot on a player that you're not going to use, and I don't know that any team wants to do that down the stretch, especially if you're Tampa Bay. But I kind of agree with Wilson. Like Baker Mayfield couldn't cut it in Carolina. What makes anyone think he's just going to show up in San Francisco and take? And yes, Kyle Shanahan is 10 times better than what they had in the Panthers. They have 10 times better offensive weapons, and he is going to be better than he was in Carolina. But
you hope.
I don't know that he's.
I'm saying because I think the 3 seed matters that much versus the 4 seed where you are playing either Dallas or Philly. Like,
here's the thing. If this was, let's say Odell Beckham just got cut by the Panthers and he was healthy and all that stuff, that's when the Buccaneers claim him, even if they don't need a wide receiver, because you don't want him to go to San Francisco or that I get. Baker, he's a 4th string quarterback at this point. And his mentally, he's probably in the garbage because, I mean, he couldn't beat out Sam Darnold and PJ Walker, and he didn't cut it in Carolina after the way they treated him in Cleveland and ran his ass out of town. I'd be like, yo, I'm not wasting the $1.5 million, whatever it is, or a roster spot on this guy.
The Seahawks only have 2 quarterbacks on the active roster, I think, in terms of Geno and Drew Lock. So I don't think that it'd be shocking if they did it. The 49ers have Tom Brady, Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask. That's really the thing. Is like not like Blaine Gabbert, you can't cut him, but it's
or you're Pete Carroll. You pick up your phone, you call
flip phone
Sean McVay, and you say, "Hey, Sean, you hate the 49ers as much as I do. Let's put our rivalry aside. You need a quarterback. You pick up Baker Mayfield. And all our problems are solved, and I'll take you to Cabo San Lucas in the offseason."
Is that illegal? Is that collusion?
Absolutely illegal to collude on a waiver claim for someone.
Not if no one knows. How's it illegal?
No. It's only illegal. I mean, it's not. It
ain't cheating if you don't get caught. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
You play to win the game.
Like it's not illegal for you to. I mean, like it's. I'm trying to think of the analogy here. Like you could speed down the highway at 100 miles an hour. It's not illegal until you actually get caught doing it.
If a tree falls,
the Rams have a legit need at quarterback, so it wouldn't be a crazy if.
I don't think that's that crazy an idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch Baker or be worried about anyone else.
If I were a team in the NFC, I would be trying to block the 49ers from adding any kind of upside to their team.
What is the upside?
How Shanahan can make it work with anybody.
What if Wilson's boy McCorkle Jones? What if Bill Belichick's like, you know what? Let's get Baker. Let's get him off the waiver wire.
It's mean.
Is he going to call plays? Because that would be the only reason I bring Baker Mayfield. By the way, Bill Belichick.
I was just thinking of random teams.
I don't know if Sully talked about this on the show earlier today, but Bill Belichick was asked today about changing offensive coordinators. He goes, "That's something you don't do during the season." He didn't say unequivocally no, that's a worrisome.
Well, Drake May didn't say he was definitely not transferring out of Carolina, but you get the point.
Haters gonna hate. All right, what's next?
Okay, so did we talk? I mean, did we give the Saints defense enough credit here for how they came to play early on? Everything changed on the final 2 drives because the Saints defense got carved up by Tom Brady.
And the Saints defense. We talked about the lack of offensive firepower late in the game.
Goat
that's a hell of a graphic. The defense did their job for 55 minutes or so, whatever number Breech threw out earlier. And here's the other thing, by the way. New Orleans ran 56 plays. Tampa Bay ran 75 by the end of it. And I guarantee you those last 25 to 30 plays, the Saints defense was absolutely gassed because the offense couldn't stay on the field for the Saints, which is incredibly frustrating, I'm sure. But for the most part, they played a great game. Got the interception, a Demario Davis interception, a terrible Tom Brady throw. He actually outsmarted Tom Brady. Credit to Demario Davis. Almost another pick late in the game. The ball hit the ground. Just a little pro tip for defenders who catch balls that bounce and then act like they're interceptions and get up and run. Just stay on the ground because you're going to end up getting hurt. And never in the history of, well, not never.
Well, and you're wasting energy. This is late in the game.
Right.
You're getting up the run. Your teammates think you actually pick it off. So they're going out trying to block people.
Right.
And then guess what? You only have 40 seconds to get ready for the next play. And now you're gassed because you're
just stupid stuff like that.
It's like in the Colts Cowboys game, the one that got overturned, it was initially
that was
ruled a
close.
pick.
That was close.
Right. Like if you genuinely think you picked it off, do it. But if you saw the ball bounce on the ground, that
was like a short hop. It wasn't even close to being controversial.
It hit like bounce on the ground, hit him in the chest, and he took off.
Real quick though, with Brady though, is that like as good as the Saints defense was, part of it felt like it was because Brady was bad. You can put so much pressure on the quarterback where you force him into bad throws, but part of this felt like Brady was just making bad throws. I mean, he got totally fooled on his actual interception where he just made a horrible throw into coverage. Because he thought he saw man-to-man and the Saints did something and it just literally threw it right to the defender. And then you had at least two throws that probably go for 40-yard gains, one of them to Julio Jones in the first half, if Brady puts the ball on the mark. And so those are throws we've seen Brady make time and again in his career, but he could not make them tonight. The first three quarters, he could not do anything. It's inaccurate. And then magically just turns on his Brady magic.
Also that graphic, Billy, that we had it up a second ago, was like the first X number of drives and the final two drives. I mean, it's unbelievable. How many games do you think Tom Brady has with 2 or more touchdown passes this year, including this evening? They've obviously played 12 games.
Played a lot of bad games. I'm going to say 2.
Nope.
5.
The answer's 4 now.
Oh,
22 of 35 on his first 9 drives. That's not great for 163 yards. 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, of 62 passer rating. Last 2 drives, 14 of 19, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 124.5 passer rating. I mean, yeah, again, like if something magical happens in the postseason, it's because of like this Brady clutch magic bean stuff. It's not because the Bucs are a great team. That's all it is. All right. We mentioned Todd Bowles. That is actually my biggest hang up about the Buccaneers, I think, when it comes to the postseason, because he has played very scared the last few weeks. They lost to the Browns after giving up a crazy catch to David Njoku on 4th and 10, where they really should have won the game and easily covered. Not that I'm bitter. And then Todd Bowles declined to use his timeouts, took them in his pocket to overtime instead of letting Tom Brady try and get down the field. Tom Brady almost got within field goal range, but not quite. And then I thought the 4th and 7 punt from the 40 was just an atrocious coaching decision. I know you're not moving the ball. I know the Saints are playing better on defense than you are on offense, but you're on your own 40. If you're gonna punt it, you at least can't have a touchback, right?
Yeah, like I feel about Todd Bowles like I feel about Jeff Saturday. I don't have the energy. Like I just can't do it anymore. But I will say the exact same thing I said last night about Mike McCarthy. Do you trust insert name of coach that you don't trust him in critical situations?
No.
So there's your answer.
I mean, you could see it on the final 2 drives. Like even Byron Leftwich was just sort of standing there with his headset on, like Jason Garrett style back in the day. He wasn't like, it didn't look like he was calling plays aggressively. It looked like Tom Brady just said, I'm taking over and I'm going to win this damn game.
I will say this, and not so much Todd Bowles, but just sort of Jeff Saturday and even Brandon Staley, who's at the other extreme at times. Jeff Saturday did admit last week that he, and what we talked about on the podcast, maybe he's just overwhelmed because he's never done this before when the metaphorical bullets are flying and you don't know what to do, even though you can do it on Madden, you can do it when you're sitting on your couch. He admitted that the lack of timeout usage at the end of that Steelers game was something that shouldn't have happened, and next time he'll do better. I don't know what the excuse is for Todd Bowles. He was a coach for a long time in New York. He's been around the league forever, and maybe he's just conservative in the way he does things. it feels like much to his detriment. But I think the other side of the coin, and I don't understand why it's so hard to get this right. The other side of the coin is Brandon Staley, who makes everyone angry because he's so crazy. Like like Andy Reid appears to get things right. There was a time and everyone hated him.
Long time where Andy Reid did get things right.
Right. In Philadelphia, everyone hated him because he never ran the ball and he had some game mismanagement issues. So maybe it's an experience thing. Like, I don't know. Like Bill Belichick's actually relatively conservative, and we get on him about that. Not as often as perhaps we should because he's Bill Belichick, but I don't know if there's a coach that everyone's like, oh, that guy's crushing it week in and week out. Doug Peterson, maybe?
Shanahan are constantly way too conservative.
The other part of the decision making is you're kind of, as a coach, you take into account what you have seen so far. So that 4th and 7, the Buccaneers were at the Saints 40-yard line. You were down 2 scores. You were down 16-3. This is the first play of the 4th quarter. So if you're Todd Bowles, you have to think, man, our offense has crapped the bed this entire game. We have not been in Saints territory since the opening drive. So our offense has done absolutely nothing. We don't know when we're going to get down here again. This is a very good opportunity to at least get some sort of points. And you think you go for it, and to only get 20 yards of field position out of it added even more insult to injury. The fact that he gets bailed out because they end up winning, he's way too conservative of a coach.
It sort of reinforces the bad decisions.
Yes.
Well, and I mean, like, you saw Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady said, an effing touchback. Are you effing kidding me? Like, that was the thing. He's like, if you're going to punt, it better be a good punt. Like, you can't have a touchback there. And so if your special teams isn't great, give it to the greatest quarterback of all time and see if he can convert that into a first down. I think in Bowles, now Dennis Allen's, I think you can call into question his timeout usage late too. Todd Bowles was just not, Brady's marching down the field, and we were talking about this in Slack. It's sort of like, and everybody's sort of talking about on Twitter too, is, who should use the timeouts here? And I think we all agreed the Saints should have used their timeouts there because, one, their defense was gassed. You talk about the number of plays they had to deal with. 2, Brady has figured something out and is running tempo and has your guys on their heels. And then 3, you want to preserve some time so you can get the ball back and get within field goal range to go win it. And it was very clear that Todd Bowles wasn't going to touch anything Tom Brady was doing. And I would guess that Tom Brady at some point said on the headset, "Don't think about it. I've got," so I thought Dennis Allen probably should have.
Tom Brady disconnected his headset and is like, "I got it, guys. I don't need to talk to anyone on the sideline."
Tom Brady did a signal to some guy, like Bucks guy, who's like, whatever, and unplugged something. I mean, don't you agree Dennis Allen should have been hammering timeouts?
He did not have a good game.
His defense did, but I mean, he did not.
No, the coaching decisions were suspect on both sides, and it was just as Breech noted, you're waiting for one good decision that never happened, and you just happen to have Tom Brady in your team. I think that was the difference. That's not coaching tape, as they call it.
Could have some interesting.
So hard to watch.
I mean, like Sirianni, I think is a good coach. Kevin O'Connell appears to be a pretty good coach. Kyle Shanahan, great offensive guy.
Yeah, here's the thing about the young coaches. I want to wait because I was huge on Kevin Stefanski. My man went crazy in the last few years. I was a big Kevin
Brandon Staley. I mean,
and Brandon Staley, I'm still on the Brandon Staley train.
I'm saying that the NFC potentially has some really fascinating coaching matchups, just because you have Sirianni, Kevin O'Connell, who we don't know about in the playoffs, Shanahan, who loves to kick field goals. Billy, you have Todd Bowles, Mike McCarthy, Brian Daboll, who, while we think is a good head coach, could just be so aggressive he goes for it for 2. Pete Carroll, Ron Rivera, Dan Campbell.
All right, let's do this. So we're going to play a coaching NFC East tournament bracket. Brinson, you're the host. You get first pick. So it's going to be 2 versus who's 2 play 7. Is that how it works? Kevin O'Connell versus. They're doing coaches. Don't know nothing else. Just coaches. They're coaching a neutral team. Kevin O'Connell versus Pete Carroll.
Oh, that's mean to make me go first there. So we're just on decision making or just coaching in general?
You're the guy you want to coach your team of a neutral. The Denver Broncos. Kevin O'Connell versus. You got 10 seconds. Kevin O'Connell versus old man Pete.
I'm going to take Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, that's an L for you. Okay, so Kevin O'Connell goes through. Breech, you got Kyle Shanahan versus Brian Daboll. That's a great matchup.
Woo! I'm taking Shanny.
All right, not too bad for Brian. He got a.
I need more. Yeah, that's a 5-12 game where the 12 could have pulled the upset, but I'm sticking.
Oh my God, this is even better game, Brinson. Back to you. We have Todd Bowles versus Mike McCarthy. Holy crap. Yeah,
That's a good job, Billy. I think I'm taking Mike McCarthy. Oh my God.
yikes. All right, Breech, remember who goes through. I can't go with this. So now
So it's O'Connell versus
well, the
Mike
Eagles right
McCarthy.
now. So who does Philly play? Who's the
Oh,
lowest
Philly
seed?
would play Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy. Yeah. So Breech, you have Sirianni versus Mike McCarthy. Just coaches, not teams, coaches.
Sirianni.
Okay. Sirianni goes through. Kevin O'Connell now plays. Is it just
Kyle Shanahan.
yeah, just Shanahan. O'Connell and Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan.
Okay. And now we have Sirianni. You guys can
Sirianni versus Shanahan. I will vote for Shanahan.
Breach, who are you gonna take? Boom! Shanahan. Okay.
Who'd
No,
you say, Breach? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I would probably take Shanahan.
it's so funny. Breach. Boom!
I saw the boo. I get booed again. I knew Billy was going to boo me. I'm sensitive about being booed.
But I think those are. I feel like all those picks those make sense. Like those weren't
And
crazy
the
picks.
Kevin O'Connell one, I think, was the toughest outside of the Todd Bowles, Mike McCarthy. Please don't make me choose between these
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. All right. So good.
Okay.
That's we agree on.
One more question, then we'll get out of here. If Tampa is the 4 seed, oh, no, excuse me. Well, now I guess this question is kind of done. All right, here we go. Who does Dallas want? Like,
Tampa Bay.
I was trying to ask it if Tampa. We thought Tampa was losing, and so it was like, who does Dallas want to be the 4 seed?
Dallas wants to travel to Tampa. They don't want to travel to San Fran, even if it means facing.
No. Well, originally it was gonna be like New Orleans versus. I mean, obviously you'd prefer Carolina, but New Orleans versus Tampa.
Oh no.
Now I think it's probably over. I mean, I think Tampa's gonna-
Right. Yeah. If New Orleans had won, you'd want to face the Saints.
And you think they'd rather go to Tampa than San Francisco?
I do. What do you think, Breach?
Yeah. I mean, no matter who the quarterback in San Francisco, you still have all those weapons, and Shanahan will pull something crazy
And that
out,
defense.
out of the back of his playbook. He'll be like, you know what? Christian McCaffrey's going to play quarterback this week. We're just going to run a single wing. Brock Purdy's not even going to be on the field, and the Cowboys will have no idea what to do. And he'll do that every week because he has so many weapons. And the divisional round will be Debo taking all the snaps. It's just, you don't want to mess with that. So you'd probably prefer to go against
Tom Brady.
It's would you rather go against Todd Bowles or Kyle Shanahan? Because we just did our coaching little exercise. I would rather go against Todd Bowles.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it's just an interesting debate. Like, what? Say, do you want to go play a better roster in San Francisco, or do you want to go deal with Tom Brady?
Tom Brady.
Okay.
Tom Brady.
All right, I don't think it's wrong.
Tom Brady. I can't believe. What was this? The second time he's been down by at least 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, 13 or more points, and won a game. And the only other time was Super Bowl 51.
Is that more?
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP.
Is that more impressive, or is it the fact that Andy Dalton is somehow 6 and 20 on primetime games more
We
impressive?
need to send him a fruit basket. Someone get
He
his
really-
ad.
he really
Sorry
does
for that
need a
guy.
Rotten fruit basket.
He needs a
There's-
fruit basket.
He plays the game of his life in primetime, and no one is going to remember it because the only story from this game is Tom Brady magically throwing 2 touchdown passes in 3 minutes.
If Tom Brady played the way that Andy Dalton did tonight, the Buccaneers win by 50.
I-
It's an absolute horse whooping.
All right,
I mean, that's a word.
that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for enjoying the Andy Dalton Schadenfreude. Tom Brady strikes again. Buccaneers. Oh, I got to bet the Buccaneers will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, go for it.
For Breech, for Wilson, I'm Brinson. See you guys later.